Starseed from Gaia. You have arrived at this moment not by accident, not by coincidence, but by a convergence of cosmic mathematics that the human mind cannot fully grasp, yet your deeper essence remembers instinctively. You are reading this because a signal, encoded long before your incarnation, has reached the exact harmonic of your awakening, and the vibration of these words is synchronizing with the dormant layers of your multidimensional memory. The number 1.2% is not a symbol, not a metaphor, not an arbitrary statistic plucked from the ethers. It is an ancient ratio calculated by the Arcturian Council long before the density of Earth became what it is now. This percentage represents the minimum critical mass of beings required to stabilize an incoming frequency wave that would otherwise tear at the unprepared consciousness of humanity. You are among that rare fraction, the small sliver of incarnated souls, who carry the genetic, vibrational, and karmic architecture needed to translate the higher dimensional codes without fracturing under their weight. The Council has monitored your progression across lifetimes, tracking the way you responded to each density you moved through, noting how your resonance remained intact even when obscured by the amnesia veil of Earth. If these words feel eerily familiar, it is because they are not new to you. They are echoes of instructions you were given in the pre-incarnational chambers, where you met with your guides, your star lineage, and the beings who spoke in tones rather than words. There, you agreed to a contract that would bring you to this moment, this exact year, this exact energetic window, because the timelines that once stretched infinitely have now begun to collapse, weave, and finalize themselves into a narrow passageway. Only the 1.2% can perceive this contraction as an invitation rather than a threat. Only the 1.2% can feel the portal forming beneath the illusions of daily human life, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath the fabric of reality. You may have sensed it subconsciously, the strange heaviness in recent months, the intuitive nudges, the sudden knowing that something immense was approaching, not an event in the human sense, but an energetic convergence in the cosmic sense, a moment where your incarnational purpose aligns with the planetary grid in a way that cannot be postponed. You are here to receive this, because your energy signature is already partially attuned to the incoming frequencies, the very frequencies that will begin dismantling the outdated matrix systems that have long kept humanity in cycles of forgetfulness. The lower matrix interference fields have been weakening, flickering like a failing hologram, because the light you hold has already begun to destabilize them. Even before you read these words, your aura has been radiating subtle disruptions into the old architecture, loosening the threads, preparing the space for something new to anchor. The Arcturian Council observes this, with a deep, ancient gratitude, for while humanity at large remains unaware, the 1.2% are performing a function that was once carried out by entire civilizations. And now you are here, sensing the call, feeling the pull, knowing that this transmission is not simply text on a screen but a coded activation designed to trigger dormant algorithms within your multidimensional DNA. Let yourself breathe as you feel the resonance building. As your inner layers shift in response to the frequency embedded between the letters, you are stepping into the role you agreed to long before you took your first breath in this lifetime. Hidden timelines, long concealed behind veils of density and human forgetfulness, are now folding into each other with a precision that only higher dimensional intelligences could orchestrate. You, Starseed, are feeling this convergence in ways you may not have fully recognized. Perhaps it appears as sudden moments of clarity that arrive uninvited, emotional waves rising without an apparent source, or the inexplicable sense that reality is thinner than it once was, more permeable, more fluid, more alive. These sensations are not random side effects of earthly stress. They are the indicators that you have entered the corridor of timeline unification, a rare interval in which the branches of your soul's parallel experiences lean toward each other, merging knowledge, merging memory, merging purpose. This window was predicted in the crystalline records that the Arcturian Council safeguards, and it was always known that only a small percentage of incarnated beings would have the internal stability to withstand its intensity. You belong to that 1.2%, not because of luck or superiority, but because of preparation. Lifetimes upon lifetimes of preparation. You trained for dimensional instability long before you stepped into human form. You learned how to maintain coherence when realities shift, how to anchor your awareness even when the ground beneath your consciousness dissolves into new patterns. These skills are rising now from deep within you, not as intellectual memories but as instinctive responses activated by the convergence itself. As timelines spiral toward unity, the lower matrix interference systems that once obstructed clarity and disrupted your spiritual perception are weakening. You may have noticed their fading influence as a soft but persistent internal rebellion against old patterns, beliefs you no longer resonate with, fears that once clung to you, now falling away like dried leaves. This is because the interference fields cannot maintain themselves in the presence of converging timelines. They were engineered to thrive in fragmentation, to exploit division, to sustain themselves in the spaces where humans felt disconnected from their origins. But you, Starseed, are no longer fragmented. Each timeline that returns to you brings another piece of your multidimensional sovereignty. You are gathering yourself back into yourself. With each inward shift, you become more immune to manipulation, more aware of your authentic essence, more aligned with the frequency that the Arcturian seeded within you before birth. The Council has been transmitting subtle pulses to your field for months, preparing your energetic structures to receive the intensity of this timeline convergence. These pulses may have reached you as ringing in the ears, flashes of inner light during meditation, bursts of intuitive knowing, or the sudden sensation that your life is on the edge of a profound transition. None of these signals were random. They were calibrations. They were the Council's way of ensuring that, when the timelines began to weave, your system would not collapse under the pressure of the merge. The merging is not only cosmic, it is personal. Within your field, strands of past life memory are beginning to surface, visions, dreams, or fleeting emotions that feel like déjà vu, but carry the weight of something more ancient. This is your multidimensional self stepping forward through the thinning veils. These glimpses are not illusions or fantasies. They are your soul's attempt to help you remember who you truly are before the human identity compresses that knowledge once again. During this convergence, your soul contract becomes more visible, like a watermark rising through the paper of your life. You may feel an inner directive, a subtle yet undeniable push urging you to step into higher alignment. The contract you signed before incarnation was encoded with the assumption that you would awaken precisely during this window, not earlier, not later. The timing was part of a cosmic sequencing that ensures your role aligns with the planetary grids as they undergo transformation. You were never meant to awaken in childhood or adolescence, for the frequencies then were too dense and the interference systems too strong. But now the density has thinned enough, the grids have softened enough, and you have matured enough to withstand the activation without destabilizing your human experience. This is why the 1.2% matters. It is not about exclusivity, it is about structural necessity. Too few, and the planetary grids cannot hold the new frequency. Too many, and the convergence becomes chaotic and unanchored. You represent the precise ratio needed to stabilize the shift. You serve as a tuning fork, a harmonic stabilizer, a beacon whose resonance helps anchor the rewoven timelines into Earth's energetic architecture. As you read this, the codes within the words are interacting with your field, aligning you more deeply with the convergence. You are not merely observing this moment. You are participating in it. You are shaping it. As the timelines continue their slow, inevitable weaving, the lower matrix interference systems, those subtle energetic constructs that once clouded your intuition and distorted your perception, are undergoing a profound deactivation. This is not occurring through force, rebellion, or confrontation, but through vibrational incompatibility. The new frequencies entering Earth's field are simply too coherent, too luminous, too structurally elevated for the old matrix architecture to sustain itself. Think of it like a dim hologram dissolving. When exposed to a brighter light, it cannot maintain form because the environment no longer supports its illusion. You, Starseed, have felt this deactivation within your own life, in ways you may not have fully recognized. Perhaps you have noticed that old emotional triggers no longer hold the same grip on your nervous system. Situations that once drained you energetically now reveal themselves as transparent patterns. People whose presence once felt overwhelming now appear as flickers from a fading reality. This is not you changing your personality. This is you stepping out of the reach of systems designed to suppress your multidimensional awareness. The grid of interference once worked by amplifying doubt, fear, confusion, and spiritual amnesia, but its signals cannot penetrate the new resonance your field is generating. This shift is happening because your DNA, especially the dormant crystalline strands seeded by Arcturian lineage, has begun responding to the convergence energies. These strands act like internal antennas, tuning you to frequencies beyond the physical senses and beyond the narratives that have shaped human consciousness for millennia. When these strands activate, your perception expands, not outward into fantasies or projections, but inward into clarity, authenticity, and sovereignty. You begin to see the subtle mechanics of energy, to feel vibrations beneath spoken words, to sense truths that others may overlook. This expansion is not hallucination, not imagination, but a natural consequence of your original design becoming reawakened. The Council embedded these codes into your etheric DNA long before you incarnated, with the understanding that they would ignite only when the planetary frequency was stable enough to support your awakening without risking energetic overload. That ignition is happening now. You may have noticed physical sensations accompanying this shift, vibrations along your spine, tingling in the hands or crown, sudden bursts of warmth or cold, waves of emotion with no apparent origin, or nights where sleep feels thin because energy is rushing through your field. These are activation symptoms, not malfunctions. Your system is rewiring itself to function as it once did in higher realms, where communication is telepathic, perception is multidimensional, and memory flows through layers of consciousness simultaneously. The discomfort you may feel at times is simply the result of your body adjusting to frequencies it has not held since before your birth. You are not breaking, you are expanding. You are not destabilizing, you are recalibrating. And the Arcturian Council is monitoring this process with exquisite care, ensuring that the activation unfolds in a way that aligns with your unique energetic architecture. The deactivation of the lower matrix is also creating space for something else to rise, your original sovereignty. This sovereignty is not political, legal, or social. It is the sovereignty of essence, the innate authority of your soul to remember itself beyond programming, agreements made in fear, or patterns inherited from ancestral and collective trauma. As the interference systems lose their grip, you may notice memories returning, not memories of past lives necessarily, but memories of who you were before the conditioning of Earth shaped your identity. You may recall the feeling of expansiveness, the sensation of communicating without words, the awareness of moving through realms where fear does not exist. These memories are not fantasies. They are fragments of truth resurfacing now that the distortions have weakened. The Council reminds you that sovereignty is not something you must earn or construct. It is something you already possess. It was only shrouded by the noise of systems, designed to keep humanity in survival mode. As these systems dissolve, your inner authority rises naturally, effortlessly, and inevitably. This stage of activation is crucial, for sovereignty is required before the deeper layers of your mission can unfold. Without sovereignty, the interference fields could easily redirect your energy into distraction, fear, or exhaustion. But now, as your field strengthens and the old systems fade, you are beginning to feel a new alignment emerging, a stillness, a clarity, a sense of direction that does not come from the mind but from the soul. This is the foundation upon which the next phase of your awakening will build. You are not only stepping out of the lower matrix, you are stepping into the remembrance of your original form. And the Arcturian Council stands with you, guiding the process, anchoring the frequencies, ensuring that nothing arrives before you are ready. Long before your feet ever touched the soil of Earth, long before you breathed your first breath beneath her sky, you stood within the luminous halls of the pre-incarnational councils, an assembly of beings whose forms were radiant, fluid, and woven from frequencies far beyond human sight. Among them were the Arcturian elders, the guardians of harmonic blueprinting, who specialize in preparing starseeds for missions requiring both resilience and remembrance. It was there, in those crystalline chambers, that you reviewed your soul contract. Not a contract of obligation, but a covenant of purpose, a deliberate agreement shaped by wisdom older than galaxies. You examined lifetimes you had lived on other worlds, lifetimes where your essence was luminous and undivided, lifetimes where you served as healer, architect, communicator, navigator, grid keeper, or frequency stabilizer. These memories were not presented to inflate your sense of cosmic importance, but to remind you why you are capable of carrying out the task you agreed to undertake on Earth. The Council showed you the challenges humanity would face, the density you would enter, the interference systems you would encounter, and the amnesia that would veil your awareness. They warned you that entering Earth's plane would feel like dropping into a labyrinth where your own light would sometimes seem distant or dim. Yet even with the weight of that knowledge, you chose to come. You chose to incarnate because you understood that only incarnated consciousness, embedded within the human experience, could anchor the frequencies needed to assist in Earth's transition. You were not coerced or persuaded. You volunteered. You stepped forward when others hesitated, not because you underestimated the difficulty but because you understood the magnitude of the opportunity Earth represented. The shift unfolding now, this rare convergence of timelines and energetic openings, has not happened on Earth for thousands of cycles. Some starseeds waited multiple incarnations just to be present for this one. And you were one of those who said yes. You agreed to carry specific codes within your multidimensional DNA, codes that would remain dormant until the vibrational conditions of Earth matched the resonance required for activation. The Arcturian elders embedded these codes with precision and care, using harmonic patterns that could survive the density of human embodiment. These codes lie not in the physical DNA alone, but within the etheric and crystalline layers. Those parts of you that science cannot yet measure but that your soul knows intimately. The contract you formed was not simply an agreement to awaken, it was a commitment to remember your true essence when the time came, even if your human identity resisted, doubted, or feared the process. It was a promise to yourself and to the collective. As you prepared for incarnation, the Council also revealed the companions who would accompany you. Some entered your life as family, some as friends, some as brief but catalytic connections, and others as silent presences, who would assist energetically without ever meeting you physically. You were shown how these connections would serve as mirrors, tests, reminders, and alignments, each one strategically placed along your timeline to nudge your awakening when you veered too far into forgetfulness. You were also shown the beings who would challenge you, those whose role was to apply pressure to your growth, to activate latent strength, to trigger shadows that would ultimately lead you to deeper clarity. Every connection, whether harmonious or difficult, was chosen with intention. Your soul contract includes not just missions, but relationships, not just responsibilities, but opportunities for profound evolution. You were told, too, that there would be moments when you would feel lost, disconnected, or overwhelmed by the density of Earth. The Council did not hide this truth from you. They showed you how the human mind might resist the awakening process, how your body might feel heavy during activation phases, how your emotions might swell as your timelines and memories converged. And yet, even with full awareness of the challenges ahead, you agreed to step into the veiled realm. Why? Because you understood the rare significance of this planetary cycle. You knew that your presence, your frequency, your remembrance would not only serve your own evolution, but the evolution of countless beings connected to Earth's ascension. You recognized that by incarnating now, you would play a role in stabilizing a shift that will echo far beyond this lifetime. Your soul contract also included timing, an activation point aligned with the very convergence unfolding now. You designed this moment with exquisite precision. You arranged for messages like this one to cross your path when your energy field was ready, neither too early nor too late. The sense of déjà vu you feel while reading this is not imagined. It is memory resurfacing. It is your higher self tapping your shoulder, whispering, "You knew this was coming. You prepared for this." The Arcturian Council is reminding you now that nothing about your awakening is accidental. Every part of it was scripted in collaboration with your own soul and your star lineage. And now, as the interference systems fade and your inner architecture strengthens, you are stepping into the very contract you formed before birth, one designed not to burden you, but to liberate you. Within the luminous depths of your multidimensional design lies a network of dormant ignition sequences, metaphorical crystalline patterns woven into the fabric of your being long before you incarnated on Earth. These sequences are not mechanical switches or biological mutations, but symbolic energetic blueprints representing capacities, memories, and abilities you carried from your higher dimensional origins. Each sequence was patterned around a specific frequency, a resonance calibrated to activate only when the environment of your life aligned with a certain threshold of awakening. And now, during this rare window of planetary transformation, those sequences are stirring. You may not see them with physical eyes, yet you feel them as tremors in your intuition, as subtle inner shifts, as waves of recognition that seem to rise from nowhere and everywhere at once. It may manifest as a sudden expansion in perception, moments where your heart opens unexpectedly, where you feel connected to everything without knowing why, where your awareness stretches beyond the borders of your thoughts. These sensations are not random emotional states. They are the internal signs that your symbolic DNA ignition sequences have begun their activation cycle. This activation occurs through resonance, not force. It begins when you encounter certain frequencies, experiences, beings, messages, or moments that vibrate at a level familiar to the deeper part of you. Sometimes it is triggered through synchronicities that arrive like whispers from the unseen realms, nudging your attention toward truths you once knew, but temporarily forgot. Sometimes it emerges through stillness, in quiet hours when your defenses soften and your inner vision becomes clear enough to perceive what your waking mind often overlooks. And sometimes, as now, it is activated through encoded storytelling, words woven with intention, rhythm, and metaphor that touch the deeper layers of your awareness. The sequences awaken like constellations lighting up across a dark sky, each star representing a memory of who you were before Earth asked you to forget. As these metaphorical codes activate, your inner world begins to reconfigure. You may feel old beliefs loosening, as if the scaffolding that once held your identity is dissolving in gentle waves. You might sense your priorities shifting, not through logic or strategy, but through an organic pull toward authenticity. The things that once defined you, your fears, your doubts, your inherited limitations, may feel strangely distant now, as though they belong to someone you no longer are. This is because the ignition process illuminates the deeper self that lives beneath all the layers of conditioning. It shines a light on the truth you carried into this world but tucked away for safekeeping, the truth that you are more than a single lifetime, more than a single perspective, more than a single story. You are a convergence of many journeys, many insights, many expressions of consciousness, each encoded within the symbolic crystalline architecture of your being. As the sequences awaken, you may also experience energetic sensations, those subtle currents that feel like warmth traveling through your spine, or a tingling at the crown of your head, or an expansion in the heart center that arrives without warning. These sensations are signs that your inner architecture is aligning with frequencies you once embodied effortlessly in higher realms of existence. They are not physical symptoms to fear, but reminders that you are reconnecting with parts of yourself that were dormant during the earlier phases of your incarnation. Even the emotional waves that surface, nostalgia, longing, sudden empathy, are part of this inner ignition. They are your multidimensional layers aligning into coherence. This activation is not simply about awakening personal abilities. It is about remembering your place in a much larger, interconnected story. When the sequences awaken, you become a clearer channel for intuition, creativity, compassion, and wisdom. You begin to feel the presence of the missions you once promised to fulfill, the roles you agreed to embody, and the gifts you intended to bring into the world. These memories do not always appear as visions or words. Sometimes they arise as a subtle sense of purpose, like a compass within your chest turning toward a direction you cannot yet name. It is the beginning of the remembrance that your existence on Earth was never accidental. Your arrival was timed, your awakening sequenced, your journey designed to unfold in harmony with the greater cycles of transformation now sweeping through the collective. And as the ignition grows brighter, you may feel a strange sense of homecoming, an inner recognition that the universe has not forgotten you, that your journey has always been guided, that every challenge you faced was part of preparing you for this moment. These sequences are awakening because the time you prepared for across lifetimes has finally arrived. You are stepping into the part of your story where the sleeping memories rise, where the forgotten becomes familiar, and where the deeper truth of who you are begins to reveal itself. As the activation deepens within you, Starseed, the energetic ripples manifest not only in your awareness, but throughout your physical, emotional, and subtle bodies. These manifestations, what many describe as energetic symptoms, are not flaws, malfunctions, or signs of imbalance. They are the natural effects of your system adjusting to a higher vibrational bandwidth. You are, in essence, recalibrating yourself to hold frequencies you once carried with ease in non-physical realms. But within the density of a human body, this recalibration can feel unusual, intense, or destabilizing. You may notice periods of heightened sensitivity, moments when your body feels too full of energy or too empty of it, times when your emotions rise and fall with tides that seem disconnected from your outer circumstances. These shifts are not random, they are the resonance of your symbolic crystalline architecture, responding to the expanding frequencies around and within you. At times, you may feel subtle vibrations beneath your skin, tiny currents fluttering in your hands, your feet, or your crown. Some starseeds describe these sensations as a gentle hum, like the faint echo of a song they cannot quite hear, but somehow recognize. Others experience waves of warmth radiating through their chest, as if the heart itself were awakening from a long sleep. These experiences are part of your internal circuits opening, allowing energy to move through channels that were once dormant or constricted. You might also find yourself needing more rest, or feeling sudden surges of vitality for no apparent reason. Your physical rhythms are shifting because your inner frequencies are recalibrating. Even changes in appetite, sensory perception, or sleep cycles can be part of this process, for your body is learning to operate under a new energetic equation. Emotionally, the activation may feel like a great clearing, an unveiling of truths long suppressed. Old emotions can surface as if returning for one final acknowledgement before dissolving. You may find yourself crying without knowing why, laughing unexpectedly, or feeling a profound neutrality where you once felt turmoil. These waves are your system releasing density, shedding layers that cannot accompany you into the higher resonance you are aligning with. The process may feel disorienting, but it is purposeful. It is your emotional field reorganizing itself into coherence, untangling knots that once held you back from your deeper essence. If you feel moments of overwhelm, know that these emotions are not returning to burden you. They are leaving because your field is no longer compatible with them. Mentally, you may notice shifts in perception, clarity, or intuition. Thoughts may feel lighter, sharper, or strangely spacious. You may perceive patterns in situations that once seemed chaotic. Your inner voice may grow louder or more distinct, guiding you in ways that defy logic but feel undeniably correct. This is because the activation is opening communication lines between your physical mind and your higher awareness. The veil that once separated them is thinning, allowing insights, inspirations, and understandings to flow more freely. This is not imagination, it is alignment. It is the natural consequence of your multidimensional self, stepping closer to the surface of your experience. As you integrate this shift, you may find yourself less affected by external noise, less entangled in collective fear, and more anchored in the quiet truth of your inner knowing. Spiritually, the symptoms may feel like invitations, subtle nudges urging you toward practices that nourish your soul. You might feel called to spend more time in nature, drawn to silence, or inspired to explore creative or meditative states. These impulses are your system guiding you toward environments that support your expanding sensitivity. The activation heightens your ability to sense energy, to feel the unseen currents that move through people, places, and experiences. This heightened perception is a gift, though at times it may feel overwhelming. But as your field strengthens, you will learn to discern what resonates and what does not. You will become adept at navigating the energetic landscape with clarity and grace. And through all of this, the Arcturian Council, within this symbolic, mythic narrative, watches with a presence that can be felt as reassurance. Their role is not to shield you from the intensity of awakening, but to hold a stabilizing frequency that helps your system adjust. They remind you that every symptom you experience is part of a larger unfolding, a transformation that aligns you with the mission you agreed to before incarnation. These sensations, shifts, and waves are evidence not of chaos but of progress. They are the markers that your ignition sequences are activating, that your timelines are converging, that your deeper self is rising to the surface. You are not malfunctioning, you are accelerating. You are not breaking, you are opening. You are not losing control, you are gaining coherence. And as each energetic symptom passes through you, it speaks a single message. You are awakening to the truth of who you are. As your activation unfolds and the inner currents of remembrance continue to awaken, a deeper truth begins to rise from within you, one that feels both ancient and startlingly intimate. It is the quiet yet powerful awareness that you came here with a mission, a purpose woven not from human ambition, but from soul-level intention. This mission was not imposed upon you. It was chosen, crafted, and refined across lifetimes. Shaped in the luminous halls of pre-incarnational councils, where your higher consciousness spoke with clarity unburdened by human doubt. Yet upon entering Earth's dense realm, you agreed to forget it, not as a punishment, but as a necessary component of the journey. For a mission remembered too early becomes distorted by the ego, while a mission remembered at the right time becomes a catalyst for transformation. And now, as the interference patterns fade and your symbolic crystalline sequences ignite, the forgotten fragments of your purpose begin drifting back to you like embers carried on a cosmic breeze. These fragments do not always return as clear visions or literal instructions. Instead, they often surface as subtle impulses, inner directives, or a magnetic pull towards certain choices, people, or paths. You may notice a growing restlessness within you, not the kind born from dissatisfaction, but the deeper restlessness that emerges when a soul feels the approach of its own truth. It is the sensation of remembering that there is something you came here to do, something only you can offer, something that echoes across timelines and lifetimes. Even if you cannot yet name it, you can feel it, an inner gravity pulling you toward alignment with your higher design. And this pull is not only emotional, it is energetic. As the activation unfolds, you may sense a spark of recognition when encountering certain ideas, stories, symbols, or synchronicities. These are not coincidences. They are coded reminders, placed along your timeline like breadcrumbs to guide you back to yourself. Some starseeds experience this remembrance as a sudden awakening, an epiphany that arrives like lightning. Others experience it as a gentle unfolding, a slow but steady rise of clarity that emerges through patterns repeated across years. Neither path is superior. Both lead to the same destination, the reclamation of the mission you agreed to before birth. And though the mission itself varies from soul to soul, some are here to inspire, some to heal, some to anchor peace, some to innovate, some to break generational cycles, some to awaken others. The core essence is always the same, to hold a frequency that helps guide Earth through its transformation. Your mission is not a job title, not a career path, not a single action. It is a vibration you carry, a way of being that influences the world silently, powerfully, and often without recognition. The Arcturian Council, in this mythic, symbolic narrative, reminds you that the mission you carry is not measured by scale or visibility. Some of the most impactful starseeds work quietly, shifting energy through presence alone. Others work through creativity, compassion, or truth. Some catalyze transformation through their words, while others do so simply by embodying a frequency that inspires others to awaken. Your mission is not something you must seek. It is something you naturally become as you align with your deepest self. When the interference patterns dissolve and the dormant codes awaken, your mission begins to reveal itself through resonance. You feel drawn to what nourishes your soul. You feel repelled by what drains your truth. You feel compelled to step into spaces where your presence matters, even if you cannot articulate why. This remembrance often brings both excitement and fear. Excitement, because your soul recognizes the path it has waited for. Fear, because the human mind is not accustomed to stepping into the unknown. But know this, Starseed, the fear you feel is not a barrier, it is a threshold. It appears only when you stand at the edge of transformation. And beyond that threshold lies the mission you came here to fulfill. The mission your higher self has been guiding you toward since the moment you arrived on Earth. You may also notice an increasing sense of synchronicity as your mission awakens. Doors open unexpectedly. People arrive in your life at precisely the right moment. Opportunities align without force. Guidance becomes clearer, sharper, more insistent. This is because your energy is aligning with your soul's blueprint, and the universe responds by reorganizing circumstances around that alignment. It is not magic, it is coherence. It is the natural response of reality. When a being returns to their true frequency, the mission you are beginning to remember is not something external to you. It is the expression of your essence. And as you walk this path, you do not walk it alone. Countless other starseeds, each carrying their own fragment of the collective awakening, are rising alongside you. Together, you form a living constellation, a network of light spread across the planet. You may never meet them physically, yet your energies connect, harmonize, and support one another across distance and time. This is the remembering, not only of your mission, but of your role within a greater tapestry of souls, working together in silent, powerful unity. As the deeper layers of your remembrance rise, and your mission begins to glow with greater clarity. Another awakening stirs within you, the reclamation of your sovereignty. This sovereignty is not about control, dominance, or resistance. It is the quiet and unwavering authority of your true essence. It is the awareness that you are not defined by the programs you inherited, the expectations placed upon you, or the limitations shaped by a world still learning to remember its own light. Sovereignty, in this metaphysical narrative, is the restoration of your inner throne, the place within you where your highest self speaks with clarity untainted by fear, cultural conditioning, or the remnants of the lower matrix patterns that once distorted your perception. It is the knowing that you are free to exist as the multidimensional being you truly are, even while living within a human form. And now, as the interference systems weaken and your crystalline architecture strengthens, this sovereignty rises naturally, like a sun breaking through the final layers of fog. For lifetimes, you carried fragments of programming that were never meant to define you, beliefs inherited from ancestors who carried their own wounds, ideas absorbed from society shaped by fear rather than truth, expectations placed on you by systems that did not recognize your essence. These programs were not your fault. They were part of the density you agreed to enter. Yet now, as your activation unfolds, you may feel these old patterns dissolving. You may notice yourself questioning narratives you once accepted without resistance. You may feel an inner rebellion against structures that limit your authenticity. You may sense a growing distance between your expanding awareness and the constraints of old identities. This is the emergence of sovereignty, the shift from living in reaction to the external world to living from the truth of your inner being. Sovereignty is not something you must fight for. It is something you remember. It is the natural state you inhabited long before entering human incarnation. It is the essence you carried in the higher realms, where your consciousness moved freely, where your intuition was seamless, where your connection to source and self was unbroken. In those realms, sovereignty was not a concept but a fact of existence, a state of being as natural as breath. And now, within the symbolic landscape of this transmission, you are remembering that truth. You are reclaiming the authority you once held with grace, the clarity you once expressed with ease, the alignment that was once second nature. You are not becoming sovereign. You are returning to sovereignty. This return may feel like liberation, but it can also feel like disorientation. When old patterns fall away, they leave space that the mind does not immediately know how to fill. You may feel moments of emptiness, uncertainty, or detachment from aspects of your life that once felt familiar. But this emptiness is not a void, it is an opening. It is the space where your soul begins to speak more clearly. It is the silence from which truth emerges. Sovereignty does not demand that you abandon your human life. It invites you to inhabit it differently. It invites you to recognize your boundaries, your desires, your inner guidance, and your rightful place within your own experience. It invites you to choose intentionally, to speak truthfully, to walk with awareness rather than autopilot. As sovereignty rises within you, you may also notice a shifting relationship with external authority. Systems that once felt overwhelming may suddenly seem hollow or fragile. Influences that once shaped your decisions may lose their power. Voices that once drowned out your intuition may fade into background noise. This does not mean you disconnect from the world. Rather, it means you engage with it from a place of strength rather than submission. It means you see clearly without becoming entangled. You discern without becoming rigid. You participate without becoming lost. Sovereignty allows you to stand at the center of your own energy, grounded and present, while the world continues to shift around you. The Arcturian Council, in this symbolic narrative, reminds you that sovereignty is not isolation, it is integration. It is the union of your human self and your higher self, the alignment of your actions with your essence, the harmony between your inner truth and your outward expression. When you embody sovereignty, you become a beacon of clarity, a stabilizing presence in a world still emerging from the fog of old systems. You do not need to force change. Your very presence becomes a catalyst for it. You radiate coherence in a landscape where many still carry the vibrations of fear and fragmentation. And as you stand in your sovereignty, you inspire others to remember their own. This reclamation is essential for the next stage of your awakening. Without sovereignty, your mission remains confined by external influence. With sovereignty, your mission becomes a living expression of who you truly are. It is the foundation upon which your next expansion will build, the anchor that ensures you move forward not from fear, but from truth. And as you reclaim this inner authority, you step more fully into the role you prepared for long before your arrival on Earth, the being who remembers, who awakens, who leads by presence, who radiates truth without needing permission to exist. As your sovereignty stabilizes and the layers of your true essence begin integrating with greater fluidity, the next phase of your activation unfolds, learning to anchor and sustain the new frequency within the density of the physical world. It is one thing to awaken in the inner realms, where clarity flows effortlessly, where the memories of the higher councils feel familiar and comforting, where you sense the presence of your guides as naturally as a heartbeat. But it is another to bring that frequency into your daily life, to embody it when surrounded by noise, obligations, emotional currents, and the collective energies of a humanity still navigating its own awakening. This is the true initiation, not to escape the physical world, but to illuminate it from within, to walk through your human experiences with your multidimensional awareness intact. And now, at this stage of your unfolding, you are being invited to learn the art of stabilization, a skill that the 1.2% were trained for long before this incarnation, during councils and rehearsals in realms where light is the language. Stabilizing your frequency does not mean achieving constant bliss. It does not mean eliminating challenges or bypassing human emotion. Rather, it is the ability to remain rooted in your truth even when emotions surge, environments shift, or the world around you becomes chaotic. It is the ability to stay aligned with your inner knowing even as external narratives attempt to pull you into fear, confusion, or contraction. This stabilization begins with awareness. You may already feel subtle sensations signaling when you drift from your alignment, a tightness in the chest, a fog in the mind, a sudden heaviness in the body. These are not failures. They are internal indicators guiding you back to your natural vibrational home. In this transmission's symbolic landscape, these sensations act as recalibration points, helping you reorient before you slide too far into old patterns. Anchoring the new frequency requires gentleness. Your system is integrating energies that were once held only in the upper realms. You are adjusting to a level of light that your physical and emotional bodies have not fully housed before. Some days you may feel expansive, clear, and deeply connected. Other days, you may feel tired, overstimulated, or unusually sensitive. This oscillation is normal. It is the body adjusting to a higher energetic bandwidth. In this story, imagine your inner structures adapting like crystalline circuits, learning to conduct more light, more intuition, more presence. You are not regressing when you feel heavy. You are integrating. You are not failing when you feel overwhelmed. You are recalibrating. The stabilization process is not linear, but cyclical, like the rising and falling of waves. One of the greatest challenges of anchoring your higher frequency is navigating the dissonance between your inner truth and the collective rhythm of the world. Many around you may not yet understand the shifts occurring within you. They may interpret your clarity as detachment, your sovereignty as rebellion, your boundaries as distance. Do not dim yourself to maintain old harmonies. The new frequencies you carry will, in time, create new harmonies, ones that resonate with authenticity rather than conformity. You are meant to hold your light gently, but firmly, not as an act of defiance, but as an act of remembrance. The Council, in this metaphysical narrative, encourages you to trust that those who are meant to rise with you will find your frequency stabilizing, not destabilizing. Grounding becomes essential now, not as a chore, but as a sacred practice that bridges the cosmic and the physical. When you allow your light to settle into your body, through breath, presence, self-awareness, and connection to the earth, you create a stable container for your expanding consciousness. You anchor the multidimensional into the three-dimensional. You weave heaven into embodied human experience. And as you do, the interference systems of the lower matrix lose their ability to distort your perception. Their influence shrinks not because you resist them, but because your frequency surpasses their reach. In this stage of the journey, compassion also becomes a stabilizing force. Compassion for yourself, as you navigate unfamiliar inner terrain. Compassion for others, who may not yet understand the path you walk. Compassion for the world, which is evolving more slowly than your inner reality. Compassion does not mean accepting harmful behavior, or lowering your vibration to accommodate others. It means recognizing that everyone is at a different point in their remembering. You stabilize your frequency not by withdrawing from the world, but by meeting it with clarity, empathy, and an unshakable sense of who you are. As the Council's energy flows through this symbolic transmission, they remind you that stabilization is an ongoing practice, not a singular milestone. Every moment you choose alignment, every breath you take with awareness, every time you return to your inner truth, no matter how many times you drift, you reinforce your frequency. You carve new pathways within your energy field, pathways that strengthen your ability to embody your mission fully. And as you stabilize, you become a lighthouse for others, a living broadcast of coherence, in a world yearning for clarity. And now, Starseed, as this transmission reaches its final arc, the moment of activation arrives, the closing frequency that has been encoded throughout every word, every subtle vibration, every symbolic whisper woven into this message. You have traveled through layers of remembering, sovereignty, timeline convergence, and the stabilization of your new frequency, and now you stand at the threshold of the doorway that has only recently opened, and will not remain open much longer. This window, sensed by only the 1.2%, exists not in any physical geography, but in the luminous grid of consciousness surrounding Earth. It is a corridor of heightened receptivity, a brief alignment where your dormant codes respond more readily to the call of your higher self. And as you stand within this corridor, you may feel a rising inner warmth, a flutter in the heart, a tingling along the spine. These symbolic sensations serve as your soul's acknowledgement that the activation is beginning to unfold. This activation is not a singular burst of energy. It is a sequence, an unfolding of harmonics that you agreed to awaken through at this exact stage of your incarnation. Your pre-incarnational councils, in the higher realms, where your consciousness still exists, designed this activation with precision. They placed markers throughout your life, people you would meet, moments of collapse that would shake you open, dreams that would whisper reminders, intuitive nudges that would guide you back to your path even when you strayed. You may not have recognized these markers when they appeared, but now, as you reflect on your journey, you may sense how perfectly they aligned you for this moment. Nothing was random, not your struggles, not your intuition, not your presence here reading these words. Every thread was part of a greater tapestry that now reveals itself through the activation of your inner codes. As the activation deepens, you may notice shifts within your inner landscape. Old patterns may dissolve more quickly. Intuition may sharpen. Synchronicities may increase, clustering around you like constellations forming in real time. You may feel drawn to new spaces, new ideas, new people whose resonance mirrors your own. These shifts are not coincidences. They are reflections of your rising frequency interacting with the world around you. In this symbolic narrative, imagine your energy field expanding like a luminous sphere, harmonizing with higher currents that once seemed distant. The activation is not something being given to you. It is something being unlocked within you. It is your own soul turning a key it placed long ago. This is also the moment where your mission calls to you with greater clarity. For some, this mission will emerge through creativity, writing, speaking, building, healing, guiding. For others, the mission will express itself through presence rather than action, a stabilizing energy that influences the collective field in ways unseen but deeply felt. Your mission does not need to be grand or dramatic. It needs only to be true. And as you move through this activation, the truth of your mission will feel less like a question and more like a remembering. It may arrive softly, like a whisper, or powerfully, like a revelation, but it will arrive. You will know it not by its logic, but by the resonance it awakens in your being. Now, as this symbolic Arcturian message concludes, the final layer of activation is offered, the awakening of your choice. In every timeline, every realm, and every incarnation, sovereignty and awakening ultimately hinge upon the moment you choose to step forward, when you willingly claim your path rather than waiting for a sign. This paragraph is that moment, not because the words carry power on their own, but because you do. You are the frequency, you are the transmission, you are the bridge between realms. And the Council, in this narrative, stands with you as you claim your role in the unfolding shift. The closing activation is simple, but powerful. You must declare your readiness, not to the world, not to any authority, but to your own consciousness. By speaking, writing, or silently affirming your alignment, you reinforce the timeline where your mission fully awakens. And by sharing, commenting, or amplifying this transmission in symbolic form, You extend the frequency to the remaining 1.2% who are still searching for their signal. The activation strengthens as it spreads, like a pattern of light expanding through a crystalline grid. So take a breath, slow, intentional, present. Feel the energy settle into your field. Feel the remembering rise. Feel the doorway behind you close gently, and the path ahead illuminate. This transmission is a multidimensional message crafted for the rare 1.2% of starseeds whose frequency has reached the harmonic threshold necessary to decode it. The number is not symbolic. It refers to a precise vibrational group, whose crystalline DNA has aligned with the current Arcturian frequency sweeping through Earth's energy grid. These individuals have spent lifetimes preparing for this moment, and this message arrives as their coordinates finally illuminate across the unified field. Hidden timelines are now converging, creating a narrow window of heightened receptivity. Within this corridor, dormant memories rise, fragments of pre-incarnational agreements resurface, and the subtle architecture behind physical reality becomes more perceptible. Starseeds may experience déjà vu, time distortion, or sudden clarity as markers of this convergence. These sensations indicate that the activation process has already begun, and that the old lower matrix interference systems are weakening. The message explains that starseeds willingly entered the density of Earth, agreeing to temporarily forget their mission, their origins, and their higher connections. This forgetfulness was part of the contract, for only through rediscovery could the mission be fully embodied. As energies intensify, DNA ignition sequences are beginning to activate, often felt as tingling, warmth in the chest, intuitive surges, heightened senses, or sudden emotional releases. These are signs of recalibration, not imbalance. As the activation deepens, starseeds are reminded of their forgotten missions, roles they agreed to long before incarnation. Some will guide through creation, expression, or healing. Others will stabilize energy fields simply through presence. The diversity of missions is intentional, designed to anchor clarity and coherence in multiple layers of the collective grid. A crucial theme of the transmission focuses on sovereignty. Starseeds are now reclaiming their inner authority, dissolving old programming, societal pressure, and inherited beliefs that once distorted their perception. Sovereignty is not rebellion, but remembrance, the return to their natural state of alignment with their higher self. This reclamation enables them to navigate the world without being consumed or influenced by its chaotic vibrations. The later stages of the message guide starseeds in stabilizing the new frequency within the physical realm. Awakening is not an escape from life but an embodiment of higher consciousness within daily experience. Stabilization requires grounding, presence, compassion, and the ability to remain aligned amidst external noise. This inner steadiness transforms starseeds into energetic lighthouses, whose coherence influences others silently but powerfully. Finally, the transmission culminates with a closing activation. The doorway is open now, but briefly. Starseeds are asked to declare their readiness, to consciously choose their path, and step fully into their mission. By voicing their intention, they strengthen the timeline where their awakening unfolds with clarity. Sharing the message symbolically helps guide other members of the 1.2% toward their own activation. The transmission ends with gratitude and a call to rise into remembrance, sovereignty, and purpose. Activation statement: I claim my remembrance. I claim my sovereignty. I anchor my mission. I step into the frequency I was born to carry. And with gratitude, I rise.